Hello, hello everyone. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's good to have you all gathered here once again on this very important note for the final phase of the webinar within the entrepreneurship and innovation space. I'm glad to welcome you all speakers here. Within one of men's words, as per the program outline, believe that you're all ready to share your contribution. Has been a wonderful period right from the beginning of this month and also last month, working on co-creating insights and knowledge on how we could build and collaborate between the EU and AU space. The topic has been very, very instrumental, strengthening AU-EU collaboration to advance inclusive entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystems. And everybody within this space, I believe, played a very key role, right from your respective backgrounds and disciplines, from private sector, government, development partners, incubation hubs. All of you have been able to contribute your best into how we could craft and co-create a policy brief that would be very cutting edge and strengthening the collaboration between AU and EU. So today we have you all here to climax the occasion with your contributions within your spaces and how we could better bridge this collaboration. I wouldn't want to mince words. I want to invite the program coordinator from Technopolis, Mr. Stefan Kuza, to help us with a special remark, and then we can now start the program. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. So far, I don't see anyone besides Agimang, but I hope I can see some of you in a second. But yeah, good to be here, and a warm welcome as always. Also from my side as the project coordinator of the Africa-Europe Innovation Platform. I think we had very enjoyable and insightful sessions up until now, working on the Figma to brainstorm together on what are the product that was built for us. The most urgent points regarding entrepreneurship cooperation between Africa and Europe. And now I guess this will culminate in a policy brief. So I look forward to the discussion today and see how we can also come up with really concrete proposals on how to take the next step for entrepreneurship cooperation between both continents. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Appreciate. So there is a webinar setting where the attendees wouldn't be visible unless we allow them. So that's why you don't see the attendees around, but they are watching us. All right. So thank you very much, Stefan, for your succinct message to commence this session. And I would like to now invite our speakers for a round of introductions. So speakers, if you are here, let's have a round of introductions for all of you. A round of intro for all of you. So all speakers, I'll start with you, Mr. Joseph Chitoti, a round of introduction from you. Then I'll go to Nadia, then Siko will follow. Then we can have Paul as well. So let's have it in that regard.
Yeah, thank you, Agimang. Thank you, Stefan. My name is Joseph Chitoti. I'm happy to be here. I am from Wazia EV. I'm supporting activities in Kenya. And what we focus on is on IoT and AI technologies. It would be interesting to more or less discuss their contributions for the private sector, towards the AU, EU, R&I ecosystem. Yeah, thank you.
Very much, Joseph. Let's go to Nadia. So speakers, I'll be glad if you can put your cameras on, your speakers. So please, I'll be spotlighting you all. So please have your cameras on. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Nadia.
Thanks so much, Saman, and everyone. My name is Nadia Usu. We work as a community advisor to the International Trade Center, Young Entrepreneurs Connect Seeds, where we're ensuring They are mentored, they are co-creating and developing solutions that can solve everyday societal problems and promoting sustainability. We do have hubs in different countries in Africa, in different regions, in Europe as well. We're working together concurrently with UNCCD, promoting youth-led businesses in sustainability. So later in my speech, I'll highlight some of how our project working with Africa and Europe has been over the past few years. So thank you so much, Ajima. Over to you.
Thank you, Nadia. Just to give you a heads up that your sound was pretty low, so if you could please adjust that, okay, so we can hear you very well earlier on, or say later on. Yeah, the next speaker is Siko Somi. Hi, Siko, a brief around yourself.
Yeah, greetings, Ajimang, and greetings, everyone. Thank you for always creating these amazing containers where we can share ideas and see how we can forge this collaboration to become something tangible and meaningful. I'm Sikom Somi, based in South Africa, ecosystem building, but also supporting the work, cross collaboration work among sectors, particularly from the private sector. And so our work really sits at that intersection where there's private sector, there's academia, there's development agencies or development partners, and then of course the entrepreneurs themselves. So we are currently working to see how we can make it happen, particularly around supporting institutions of higher learning in making those spaces entrepreneurial. And then seeing how government can also play a role in supporting those young people and young minds and brilliant ideas, but also pushing the envelope and seeing how we can assist in scaling some of those initiatives. Because I think that's where the gap is, not just the creation, but the scaling. So happy to be on the program and looking forward to sharing on how we can scale some of the innovations that are brilliant on this beautiful continent. Thanks, Ajima.
Thank you very much, Siko. We'll now move to Paul Mbua. Paul, a brief intro of yourself.
Hey, good day, everyone. My name is Paul Mbua. I'm based in Africa, but geolocated in Cameroon. So I travel and work across Africa in the intersection of digital transformation, run an innovation hub. But also what we've been doing the past 3 years is also supporting both regional and national network of innovation hubs. So very passionate about that. Recently we've been working with DRC, with Enabel on supporting their local country network. So happy to be here.
Thank you very much. And as mentioned earlier by the program coordinator, this is a network of networks. So we're glad to have all of you unique stakeholders, well diversified in here, representing a very unique stakeholder group. We're also expecting a speaker from the EU community in the person of Peter Fagerstrom. We believe he is able to join us. He has some few complications joining, but we believe he joins us, so we can now set the pace. But now we'll continue with the program and start with Siko. Siko is representing the private sector space, will be sharing with us some industry perspectives on scaling innovation. The goal of this conversation is that we want to see our efforts meeting up with EU efforts and what are some of the expectations from both sides on how we can strengthen the community, which is the private sector community. For the past week, Siko, we've been able to do co-creation works together, and we understand the expectations from both sides. So it would be a great time to hear from you, accumulating all these thoughts to see what the private sector scope looks like in terms of building that kind of collaboration, advancing that equitable and inclusive space within EU. So let's hear from you, Siko. So you're muted, Siko.
Thanks, Ajima. I appreciate it. Looking forward to just sharing some insights from our side. I'll just wait for Jemima to assist with the slides just to prevent any technical mishaps.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think I'll just have my camera off just for bandwidth.
Yeah, in a minute.
Hi, Siko, can you see my
Yeah.
screen?
Almost something is happening there. Yeah, brilliant. Yes. I can see your screen, Jemima. Yes.
Okay.
If you can just scroll back right to the top to the first slide. I think we are on slide 4 or 5 there.
Is this okay, or do I start right from the first page?
Yes, please, on the first one, on the first page, please.
Okay, I am on the first page. Hello, Siko.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jemima. Yes, I think it's just the network. So there's a lag from my side, I think. So the slide appears a bit. There's just a slight delay, but thank you so much. And thanks again, Ajimang, for the intro and just creating with the partners, of course, the EU partners, in terms of what this is supposed to bring about. Afternoon, everyone. Again, Sikom Somi here from South Africa. And so when we talk about innovation ecosystems, we often celebrate only the ideas. But from an industry perspective, the real question is different. So rather than how many startups do we have, the question is how many can we scale? And scale is not a startup problem alone. It's a systems problem. So if the EU-AU collaboration is really serious about inclusive growth, we need to shift from that position of just celebrating innovation creation to a position where we are engineering innovation absorption. And that's the private sector lens that I'll bring today. Thank you, Jemima. Next slide, please.
Please, can you see the next slide?
Ah, yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, so I think this is something that most of us are going to be talking about, especially the first point, where Africa is the youngest continent in the world, and where Europe is, or the EU, if I can put it that way, is the largest trading partner. But what we see is that less than 2% of global VC or venture capital is reaching African firms or African businesses. And so the issue is not the demographic energy, but it is, and it is not the entrepreneurial intent. It really is about the capital depth, the market access, and I would like to say maybe the orchestration or the coordination of scale infrastructure. So industry does see the potential, but potential without the pathways doesn't, and it won't convert. And next slide, please. Yeah, so from a private sector standpoint, the problem is not ideation or creation. I think from the north to the east to the west, central, south, we see strong founders, we see the strong engineers, we see the strong prototypes coming out. But what we don't see enough of is the structured procurement access. And large firms need reliable suppliers. Startups need anchor customers, but that bridge is very thin. And without that bridge, true innovation will remain local. It will remain fragile. And of course, the big one, it'll remain undercapitalized. Next slide, please, Jemima. Yeah, so this is the reality, and I think we can all accept that small businesses are not marginal actors. They are pretty much the backbone of both EU and African economies. But a lot of them, they still remain subscale, not because they lack ambition, but it's because the system rewards incumbency and not the integration that needs to happen. So industry usually scales where transaction costs are low, where the rules are predictable, where capital is patient, and that is the missing architecture. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we might not need more demo days. I'm not sure who's speaking on hubs, but we might not need more of them. I think we do have enough. We need deeper corridors. And there are three levers that I think are worth highlighting, which I think are undervalued. The first one being the corporate procurement pipelines. The second being the regulatory interoperability across regions. And then the last one being a very critical one, where blended finance supports scale stage firms. And if the African Continental Free Trade Area is meant to reduce fragmentation, and we have platforms such as the Global Gateway aligning infrastructure investments, then I think the private sector has something to anchor into, because without that alignment, capital will hesitate. Next slide, please. Yeah, so there are some positive signals. Blended finance is absorbing early risk, but in really small pockets. We see corporate venture arms exploring the African markets, slowly though, carefully. And then we start seeing the digital infrastructure being something that is lowering the entry barriers. If we talk about the digital penetration across Africa, we start seeing that there is a massive investment in terms of just the digital infrastructure that is coming up across the continent. And then, of course, the one that is a hot topic at the moment, where we see AI compressing that cost to scale curve. But capital is still cautious, and because systemic trust is still forming, and that's a big one. Next slide, please. Thank you, Jemima. Yeah, so the reality of it is that industry, in general, by principle, doesn't fear risk. And that's why you see there's always something happening. Markets are volatile because there's that appetite for risk. But industry fears unpredictability, and certain things are reality on this continent: currency volatility, policy shifts. There's that fragmentation amongst markets. And those are just a few to mention. Because scaling requires anticipation, because at the moment what we're seeing is reaction. And anticipation depends on those stable rules and shared indicators that I think most of the speakers will speak about. And because without those systemic indicators, capital will remain defensive and awaiting for the right moment. Next slide, please. So what we need is a foresight lens, not attribution. It's not really about who is getting the credit, but really it's about contribution. Who is strengthening the system or the ecosystems that we are speaking about? I think Ajimang was speaking about ecosystem of ecosystem. And that's where the focus needs to be. So it shouldn't just be about pilots for visibility, but it should go back to the first point I was raising around the procurement aspect. You know, how are we making those procurement pipelines durable? It shouldn't be just about grants for activity or activities. It should really be about a structured demand for scaling or for scale, because scaling is adaptive management. It is iterative experimentation. It is continuous learning. And it is that trust that is then built through repeated exchange. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we all love frameworks, and but I thought I'll just put this one in there as well. Yeah, so here, this is just a pragmatic framework where anchor corporates can commit procurement quotas, for instance, and this is practical. This is pragmatic. On the left there, you see the TOC that guides the EU-AU framework or the partnership, and I thought that it actually fits in quite nicely with this type of framework that is built on the systemic trust I was just mentioning about. You know, where we then see development partners absorbing that first loss capital, and governments aligning standards across the corridors, and then of course the data infrastructure, reducing the information asymmetry. And this is when risk is shared, and when that happens, scale accelerates, because scale can only accelerate where inclusion is deepening. Next slide, please. So this is not prescriptive. This is only a recommendation. So please don't feel that, yes, SICO is saying that we must do this, but I think that language needs to land. There needs to be a more sterner direction if we want to move the needle that we're talking about. So here we need to see academia shifting from just publication metrics. They need to move towards commercialization velocity. Private sector moving just from CSR to structured supply chain integration. Incubators becoming procurement brokers. Governments aligning regulation with trade corridors. And then you see the development partners absorbing that early risk so that private capital can follow. Because it's something that we need to be quite stern on, and ensuring that no single actor can scale alone. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we really need to be moving towards a reality or a phase where the EU brings that capital depth and the regulatory discipline, and as a continent, through the AU mechanism, we bring that demographic momentum. and that digital leapfrogging capacity. Because I think if we align capital, if we align standards, if we align the demand, we can then start seeing that unlocking happening, where we are unlocking something larger than that, than just startups. We start unlocking shared markets, as you can see right to the bottom there, where the funnel takes us through. Because scaling that innovation that is happening on this continent is not just, it should be more about just the ideas themselves. It should really about ensuring that those fewer barriers are then realized as we take the work forward. Thank you.
I think an applause will do. An applause will do for Siko. You can put your hands together for him. And that's a very excellent way to set the pace. Thank you very much, Siko, for setting the pace wonderfully. I think there's a hand up from Stefan. Stefan, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Siko. I wanted to applaud you, but I think the emoji didn't work. So I'm doing it already.
That's great. Thanks, Stefan.
No, thank you very much. I think it was very interesting for me, at least. And I took a couple of notes, maybe some further reflections, and happy to discuss it further when we get to the policy brief drafting stage. Because some of what you mentioned certainly resonated also with some of the work we are doing here at Technopolis, or initiatives I came across over the last few years. So just very, very briefly, on the point of corporate procurement, I think it's very interesting. I remember a program, I think it was a couple of years ago, Make It or Make IT in Africa. It was facilitated by the GIZ, but I think Airbus was basically sponsoring it, and then they were supporting, for instance, drone startups in Africa. So I think maybe if we can find more examples like that and see what the sort of the success factors were, or also the issues that they faced, maybe that could be something we can touch upon. And I'm sure you have more interesting examples in mind. On the point of standards alignment, I think it's a very interesting one. I think it's also an ambitious one, because I know that, for instance, between the European Union and India, there is now a Trade and Technology Council in place that covers standards alignment, especially in clean tech, for example, around hydrogen, safety, and other, or e-vehicle charging infrastructure, just to give two examples. But of course, there it's a bit easier because they just concluded a free trade agreement, and also the EU is dealing with a unitary country. Whereas, of course, in case of Africa, yes, we have the AFCFTA, but it's, as we know, still a bit in its infancy, and there's still a lot of fragmentation between countries. But nevertheless, I think it's definitely something we could also recommend to take further, to consider further in the policy brief, and maybe more on the EU to individual Africa countries, that level. There has recently also, we did some work on looking into data adequacy decisions, for instance, between the EU and Kenya, that should facilitate digital trade and digital services. So maybe that's something we can also highlight. We also did some work on digital public infrastructure, where I think there has been some attempts, maybe not for alignment, but at least to see where are the complementarities between Europe and some, like ECOWAS, for example, in the financial area. Also integrating African innovations into EU supply chains, definitely, I think, a nice idea. Again, maybe we can find some examples where this has already worked, and then see what were the success factors. And then for EU capital, I think we can also recommend some EU programs like the European Innovation Council that could be suitable for that.
No, thanks, Stefan. And to your point there around the alignment, just as much as EU is now going to create this EU Inc., I think it's only suitable that the AU creates an AU Inc. as well, where we start those cooperations happening at that level, but also country to country, and I think that enables or expedites the alignment as well. but also on the point of the digitalization or the digital infrastructure point. Look, Africa has not gone through an industrialization period. So there's still a massive expectation for us to leapfrog from where we were to now start competing and still be responding and operating in a global context where other nations have already gone through that process, that industrial period. We have not. So there's a lot of leapfrogging that is happening, or that has to happen as an expectation of African markets. But what needs to happen is that there needs to be that environment where government creates the environment around supporting and ensuring that there is fewer barriers for African partners to collaborate, but also ensuring that the EU-AU partnerships are fast-tracked, and there shouldn't be any barriers. So one of the most practical steps, perhaps, is looking at some of the visa regimes that exist amongst the 54 countries. How could we create a mechanism, or even just pilot it for a bit, to say everyone within this partnership, we somehow create a mechanism that allows those regimes to not be a barrier, a trade barrier, for instance. And I think that is one practical way that we could start seeing that accelerating some of the partnerships that need to happen. But most importantly, the investment, the reverse investment that then needs to happen in terms of the procurement side of things.
Thank you very much, Siko, and thanks, Stefan, for the further insights shared. We would have to move on, but we also have a moment for Q&A, which is downstream the program. So we'll engage everybody to share further comments and questions to every speaker you want to share with. But the next speaker is also a stakeholder within the Incubator Hub, the DIH Digital Incubator Hub space, and she's also within the startup support space in Ghana. She is Nadia Owusu. Nadia, it's your moment. Let's hear from you.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Is it much better?
Yes, the sound is better.
Awesome. Awesome. So I think my earlier colleague has touched on a lot of many points we already would have initially raised. Just to follow as the method is broken, so I can now see everyone now. As rightly stated, my name is Nadia Owusu, currently working in the ecosystem space for entrepreneurs in Ghana. For the past 7 years, I have been working with different UN systems to promote inclusive entrepreneurship, education, and also working with different stakeholders to ensure with mainstreaming entrepreneurship space, if I will put it. We work with different startup associations in Ghana, from the National Youth Authority to the Institution of Ghana Startups. And currently, I serve as a youth advisor to the International Trade, where we're working with youth entrepreneur groups in different ecosystems. So to talk on different points to promote startup support and ecosystems as we are trying to champion the AEIP partnerships. The first title point for me would be strengthening innovation ecosystems. I don't believe in reinventing wheels. We currently have different EU-AU partnerships when it comes to entrepreneurship, and I believe our current community of practice is a clear example of one. I believe when we're thinking about incubator partnerships, connecting startups, universities, investors, corporates across the continent, one thing we can do would be ensuring we do have a council that regulates these systems, a council that would bring all the different stakeholders together, ensuring that we do have knowledge exchange, knowledge transfers. We can put together joint research and also promote cross collaboration partnerships. I believe with this, we can be able to institutionalize stronger and more resilient entrepreneurial systems across both regions. And one way we can do this is ensuring we are putting together policy papers together, joint research, working with different incubators in Africa and also in EU to ensure there's more cross collaboration, co-creation to be able to strengthen both ecosystems. At a point, Peter mentioned that was very important also was funding and investment readiness. Touching on points on the AFCFTA, I believe some hubs currently have funding. EU is championing promotion of funding to different startup hubs and incubator. I think we can push for more mentorship, financial modeling, and pitching competitions that can also unlock blended finance mechanisms. We do have venture capitalists currently in the ecosystem. And for Ghana, we do have the impact investments happening, but we can also promote more of these through public-private financing mechanisms. And this can be supported by different governments on the different continents. I believe the ADB is championing this in Africa with the AU, and I'm also aware of the EU Investment Bank pushing for capital access for early stage ventures. Another point I would like to touch on will be skills development and also capacity building. Working with extensively with youth enterprises and youth entrepreneurs, one of the gaps that are being seek to be closed is the capacity, technical training, and also digital skill development. And I believe having accelerators to close this gap would be very essential to ensure that capacity building, skill development, and information transfer would be important. And we can do this by exchange programs, boot camps, and ensuring structured curricular frameworks between the two continents. And I think I benefited from such an exchange program with the GIZ in Germany, where they had 10 innovators from Ghana go to Germany, spend 2 months to understand starting your business in Germany, what it feels like to work with German partners. So this gives people in Africa a context, like a very tangible context to experience how the economic and entrepreneurship ecosystem in Germany feels like. And I think Germany also had another exchange program, getting German startup founders to come to Ghana, to collaborate with Ghanaians, to work together. And I think this partnership has been extensive for the past 2 years, where Ghanaians and Germans are working together. And I think if we can have models for such exchange learning programs that is sustainable, that's very key, and it's very important in promoting skills development and also capacity building. The most important last thing I would want to talk about is market access and cross-continental scaling, because it's very difficult if you want to set up your business in different countries, especially if you don't know the regulatory frameworks, if you don't know what's key to start. And I believe with the AU Incubator partnerships, I think one thing we can push for would be soft landing programs that would push for startups entering into markets to have some sort of flexibility, to have some tax credits to be able to start their businesses and have a very good enabling environment for them to thrive. We believe African startups can gain access through EU regulatory frameworks and distribution channels. We can also test some of innovations in EU if we have better markets and better frameworks to foster trade, promote technology transfer, and also align with scalable solutions that would promote co-learning, co-sharing together. So I think this will be my 4 elements I'll be putting on board to highlight them, is to strengthen the innovation ecosystems, to push for access to funding and investment readiness. Very key to this is also skill development and capacity building. And lastly, and most importantly, market access and cross-continental building. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Nadia. Equally wonderful presentation. You made the highlights on point, just like what Siko did. There's a very important item in here, which is for you. I think that first of all, let's do what we used to do with the applause. Please let's do it for Nadia. Let's do it for Nadia. Yes, and Nadia, this question is for you. It's from Stefan. It says that, do you have the name of the German Ghana Mobility Scheme, the GIZ program? He would like to look into it. Do you have the name for that program?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm happy to share more on that. It's the Rail Africa NRV partnerships. So I'm happy to connect Stefan with the team that do this to know the learnings for us to be able to, as a community of practice, learn from the wins, the success stories, how these businesses are provided from these exchange programs.
So did you catch that?
If you could share the link, maybe that would be great, Nadia.
Yes, yes, yes. I'll definitely send it to Ajamana by email.
Thank you.
So you can have an extensive and that.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you, Nadia. I really appreciate your contribution as well. And let's move on to the next speaker. So not to say we'll be having a Q&A session right after Nadia, after the next speaker, so we can engage briefly. The next speaker is also represented the private sector. He's Kenyan based within the AU Internet of Things space, the person of Mr. Joseph Shitoti.
Thank you, Agima. So I turn on my camera now. That I didn't do it during the introduction, so you could have a view of who I am. But during the presentation, I will leave it off so you could concentrate on the presentation. My name is Joseph Shitoti again. I am based in Kenya. I support activities for WhatsApp on IoT and AI. I will share my screen now. This is... Can you see it now on slide view?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think Agemang, when I send you the slides, I will work with you to reformat it to the proper AIP format. So please don't mind the different formatting. But then what I would like to share today is on the private sector and the role that it needs to play towards bridging the AU-EU R&I gap. To understand this well, from experiences on past initiatives, specifically the SEED project, that was the Strengthening European African Digital Ecosystem Through Increased R&I that just ended last year, and from also a project called Ubiquitous that was sort of merging and building capacity for innovation hubs in Africa and making them sustainable. We sort of understood that the gaps between the private sector and the respective innovators or R&I actors could fall into three categories. And for us, we saw that one main gap was the aspect of commercialization. That means that the research and innovation actors are more focused on technology transfer as opposed to market-driven research. In this case, the linkage at the point when they want to take their solutions to market, it becomes very complex since the needs that the industries are probably working on so misaligned to what they're presenting. So in this case, where should the question that we sort of asked ourselves was where should the initiative come from? Should it be from the private sector to deliver the needs, to the respective actors, or should the R&I actors provide, or rather do the market research themselves and now work on the commercialization in that aspect? Yeah, where should it come from? Because these two sectors are actually often the backbone of the economic development of any cooperation or collaboration. The next part that we sort of assessed as a gap was on partnership. That means that, yes, indeed, from the African side, it is well understood that 90% of the private sector, or rather the private sector contributes to 90% of the employment in the African ecosystem. But then if this is the case, then what is the problem? Yeah. Our assessment sort of saw that the private sector in most countries in Africa work in a silo kind of approach. That means that the partnerships between private sector to private sector, or private sector to government, or they are sort of fragmented. Yeah, that means everyone wants to work alone. And in this case, we don't have that strong cooperation. And if you need to probably link it now with the European side, it further becomes complex, because even on the policy side, then there are challenges as well. Yeah. So would you link with one cooperation, or would you, is there a one size fit all type of approach for these corporations or not? Yeah. And the final one is resources and tools. That means that from the R&I side, there is limitation on what to use, or rather the tools, both software and hardware that they need for their development. There is also a limitation on finance. Yeah, so finance often cuts across. But then on the private sector also, in terms of the financial capabilities to sort of continue sustainably developing their innovations or products, yeah, and taking them to market, then there is a limitation there as well. Yeah. And again, a question arises here: should we focus on who should do what? Is it the private sector to develop the tools, or the academic side, or the R&I actors to more or less suggest what they need, and they are supported in that development? On the next slide, I will test it to see if it will play, but I wanted to show you a bit of what we have tried to do as an organization to more or less build this capacity with innovation hubs. So to provide certain aspects of the resources and tools, and also working in form of partnerships. Yeah. And this spun out of a previous initiative, the Ubiquitous initiative that I've just mentioned. And the approach has actually scaled into now a standalone product, which I will explain later. So let me test if this video can play. I hope it does. Yeah. Let me know if you can hear the video, the sound. Or is it? Hello?
Yes, yes,
The sound is there, right? Yeah.
yes.
Water flow control system and an egg integrator.
Hello, Joseph. I think that we are out of sound now. It was sounding earlier than now. It's
There's no sound.
yeah.
Let me try again.
I've created several powerful tools.
Now,
And now we can hear.
okay. I won't start it from the beginning due to time. Sorry. I think maybe somewhere here. Okay.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
You need to reach your local digital innovation hub. At the hub, you can
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah, Joseph. Just a minute.
yes.
Because the sound in the video went out in the middle section, you can please share a link of the video in the chat section as you proceed, just to make people access the video.
Exactly. You can see if I can copy link. Could I do that after the? It's
Yes,
here
yes,
already.
yes, yes. You can go ahead. Yeah, later.
Yeah, I already have the link. So let me see if I can share it already. I think it won't allow me. So let me finish. Then I will add it on the chat.
Yeah, later on. Go ahead.
Thanks. So that is just a small demonstration of something we tried to build partnerships for digital innovation hubs in 15 countries, 15 hubs in 13 countries in Africa. And there are some very good lessons from this. And on the next slide, I will show you a bit of the tool that we, following those lessons, we decided to now improve the solution into some kind of standalone product. That is the part where I ask, should the private sector work on the tools and push them to the R&I actors, or should it be the other way around? We have some lessons on this also, if you will be interested to more or less understand them. And here I just show a bit of the partnerships that we are trying to build between the private sector and academia to sort of now scale the solution to various universities in Africa. So through a university network, I think we insist on partnership. That is the only way to go. And everyone has a role to play. That means that we learn that you need to work with stakeholders that already have experience in various sectors. On one part, there are those that are good at the course development, for example. So we engage them. That means that is us actually. We are good at this. They're building the structure and the platforms for the short course. Then there are those that are good at building the content. So you need to work with universities and innovation hubs. And finally, the student or the innovator has a role to play in actually now developing the solutions, in this case. So it needs to be a partnership, and working in silos sort of derails the process. And in this manner, now there is coexistence and more or less familiarization of the framework and a framework between the Europe and African ecosystem. I think that is it. We are WASIAP. We are looking at IoT and we are building it in Africa. Focused on IoT, AI, space technology, and sensing technology. We focus on education, agriculture, water, waste, and energy. And we have had impact in 17 African countries with various activities going on. We don't have the sort of offices in those countries, but then we have initiatives that are actually supported by the organization. And we also work on this AU, EU, African projects from time to time. So we have a number of projects active. Thank you. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph, for your presentation. And we initially were expecting one EU stakeholder called Peter to help us with the academic point of view, but he is unable to join us. And since we would want to use his time to allow the last speaker, who is Paul Mbua, representing the incubator hubs, setup support, and ecosystem building, we'll want to hear from you, Paul, and afterwards we'll use the remaining time for interactions and comment. I think that we should allow that to happen so we can have enough time to engage. So, Paul, if you can hear me, we will want to have stage now so that afterwards we can have the room open for interactions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if you guys can get me.
Yes.
Hello, can you guys
Hi,
get me?
Paul. Yeah, Paul, I can hear you.
Yes. Okay, good. My internet is a bit shaky, so just bear with me. So in case you're not getting me, just give me maybe a thumbs up or something.
Okay.
So I'll be bringing the incubator hub perspective in terms of startup support and also ecosystem building. So, and my name is Paul Mbua. Been in the ecosystem active for more than 19 years, as young as I am. I got to the ecosystem in 2004, and it's been an interesting journey. So maybe some pointers, I think I'll just build up on the previous speakers. Entrepreneurship drives economic value, jobs, resilience, and also long-term prosperity. So in Africa, we've seen, the various impact in the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And the most transformative engine of growth has really been the private sector, being powered by the innovation hubs that have become, a catalytic infrastructure And in this discussion, I'd want to really, in terms of our policy brief, really have to move the concentration from the top 5 and try to distill that a bit across the continent. We must really focus on intentional inclusion. And when I talk about inclusion, I'm talking about, reprogramming the focus to Francophone Africa, Central Africa, undeserved and emerging economies. And also within the past 5 years, we've really seen among the innovation hub space, where we've seen a lot of strong SME sector growth due to support from the hubs. So the collaboration is not optional, but it should be more strategic. What is our perspective on the ground? What we see is that ecosystems are unevenly developed, right? Funding is really concentrated amongst very major cities that we know within the top 5. Early stage and scale-up financing remains critically underfunded. So where we would want to see a lot of strides is in terms of early stage and also scale-up financing. Policy fragmentation, we've seen a lot of policy fragmentation, even though we talked about the CFTA, but it's still very nascent and so much work to be done. Even across the regional platforms and regional structures, really a lot has to be done. Is there talent? Yes, there is talent. There is innovation. But one of the things we also see is infrastructure and lack of coordinated support remains really insufficient. And when we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about digital connectivity, we're talking about digital infrastructure and energy. Notwithstanding, right, when we're looking at the ecosystem, I always love to bring us back to the origins, because if we don't know the origins, we'd always, feel that we are failing, maybe we are failing forward, but I think we're doing a great job. So if you want to look at, within the African continent, most of the countries really got independent around the 1960s. So between the 1960s and the 1980s, we had lots of, state-led economies. And we start having liberalization in terms of, openness of the economies around the 1990s. And looking at some of the African nations, they had internet 26 years ago. So 26 years ago is not a very long time. And we could see the leapfrog that has happened, under 26 years in terms of the innovation and what is happening in the continent. When some of these African countries were getting independence, in the EU, we had, very remarkable conglomerates and enterprises being founded in the same year. So the stories cannot be the same in the level of policy infrastructure, in the level of incitement policies and soft landing programs. So as innovation hubs, what is our role? We sit in the intersection between the private sector, the public. We are also a private sector, part of private sector, development partners, academia, and investors. But one of the things we are seeing within the continent is the breed of specialization. So a lot of these hubs started as generalists, right? Doing awareness raising on entrepreneurship, digital skills, incubation, acceleration. But now we're seeing formation of more specialized innovation hubs, in terms of green tech, health, and the rest. The function in the value chain ecosystem framework, a lot of these actors provide incubation, acceleration, talent development, digital transformation, market linkages, but also hubs are more ecosystem integrators. And it's very important for us to have that at the back of our minds. Innovation hubs can't function alone, right? We function within a thriving ecosystem. So if we want to measure the performance of the hubs or the innovation hubs, we need to look at the performance of the ecosystem. And an effective ecosystem requires what? Shared infrastructure, exchange of skills and expertise, digital and green sector alignment, structured capacity building programs. Yes, there's this, new wave of, is capacity building not enough? Have we not gotten enough of capacity building? But looking at the various ecosystems, across the world, capacity building has always been the bedrock. And I think we need to continue with a more structured approach. So where are some of the areas we see? I think we've talked about, possible sustainable financing models, which could be, matching blended financing model. We'd also want to see, hubs. Definitely within the past 5 years, we've seen hubs now as implementing partners of a lot of these projects. We've seen, we know there are opportunities in digital and green transformation sector, which we've seen hubs really driving that role. There's a project we worked with GIZ, Make IT Africa, called Hubs Go Green. And that was a call to action for, selected hubs across Africa that are really focused on green tech, right? Capacity building and skills transfer, very important. Talent development and entrepreneurship education. So in this area, we're looking at digital skills, cutting edge skills, for example, AI, machine learning, robotics, Internet of Things. We're also looking at SMS of Things, right? And also having an inclusive ecosystem strategy. So what would be some of our recommendations? I think we've also touched some light into this, is to really develop or enhance an EU-AU ecosystem collaboration approach. I think the AEIP platform is doing a lot. I think I've already had 2 matches that I'm working on, and I think that's a great step in the right direction. We need to establish more cross-border soft landing programs. So a one-stop shop for startups that want to soft land to Africa, and also a one-stop shop for startups in Africa that want to scale or have a joint merger or partnership with another entity or another venture in the EU, right? We've talked about the blended financing facility, and this is very important. It could be early stage and also scale up stage. That's where we see the gap, and also more support in talent development and entrepreneurship development. My final words would be, we should focus on a value chain investment approach, right? Somebody talked about silos, very important. If we want to see impact, we need to invest across the value chain, and we need to enhance on the ecosystem approach. So for a prosperous Africa, a more emerging Africa, we want to see thriving innovation hubs, but definitely we want to see the drive within creating sustainable ecosystems. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Paul. I also believe in what you believe in the value chain approach. I believe in that as well. You can also share your applause with the emoji. This is a wonderful, excellent delivery by you, Paul, and thank you very much for doing this. Now, stakeholders, members of the COP, that is a time where your voice is also heard. Our speakers have done marvelous, from Nadia to Siko to Paul and to Joseph as well. And that is where you also, as stakeholders within your own respective spaces, will share your opinions about what they've said. Where does it need more addition? Where do you want to bring your input? Where do you want to recommend? And a whole lot more. So let's open the floor up and let's hear from you. So you can put your hands up and then let's hear from you. Any additions from members in the house? I'm going to call on you. I'm going to call on you to share your opinions, okay? So I'm going to call on my very good friend, Alexander. Alex, glad to have you here.
Yes, hello, Akiman. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, Alex. Would like to hear from you. What's your take on today's presentations and points shared?
Just give me a second, I'll put the camera on. Yes, okay, perfect. So technical problems are overcome. So yeah, very beautiful presentations by everyone, actually. I think this is very interesting. I mean, I am active in an organization that does innovation in Europe, but has also been involved in Africa and knowledge and technology transfer activities. And what I see when looking at entrepreneurship and also what has been said here, well, my thoughts are that there's two aspects to consider. One is, of course, what is typical for the African continent, which are the structural issues that most of you have also pointed out related to currency stability, VC capital, and so forth. And that is definitely a challenge that we have in the cooperation between these two continents, because that is something that Europe just doesn't have. And if only some regions, and to a much lesser extent, probably. But I believe that these other regions in Europe that share, although to a lesser extent, similar structural issues, I'm thinking of South Italy, where I'm apart from, could be used as bridges in terms of creating maybe also common, how to say, common approaches, by build kind of a common denominator, minimum common denominator. And the second aspect is not related to the differences between the two continents, but to the same similarities, because I believe that knowledge transfer and technology transfer, that for me, at least for my bias, is kind of also the basis for technological innovative entrepreneurship. There's similar issues are being faced everywhere, and that is essentially the issue of bringing together academia and entrepreneurs, and also allowing technology to move from low technology readiness levels to higher ones, crossing the death valley of innovation. And there I feel that really in both continents, there is the need for somehow bringing these groups together. So summing up, and then I will stop talking, I promise, is that I believe that there's also the challenge is not just horizontally between the two continents, it's also vertically within each of them and maybe also across them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alex. And let me also call on Gideon. Gideon, your perspectives. Okay, so whilst Gideon gets ready, hi Charlotte. You want to share your perspective on what we shared today? Do you have any to add up? Do you want to buttress on any points? If you have, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Chichi, do you have any to share? Any top-ups? Any points you want to raise to buttress what has been said already? Do you agree with something or disagree? You can go ahead and then unmute yourself. Effie. So Hope, Nana Kojo, let's hear from you all. Rosemary, you're here. Saha, you joined us. Saha, you want to share your perspective? Zandile. Okay, Rosemary.
Okay,
Go ahead,
I'll
Rose.
come in. No, those were all great presentations where I learned from, I think, especially some of the initiatives happening elsewhere on the continent. My background is South Africa for this project representing Southern Africa Regional Association. And my experience has been mainly in tech transfer. So I think that drawing on one element, I think that Siko mentioned was about reducing friction. And I think that's something that I've been thinking about more and more lately, because it's still quite remarkable to me in the space that there is constant friction that despite best efforts across the value chain from policymakers, people sharing the same objectives. And yeah, I think it makes quite an interesting point to focus on. So that's what we're going to look at. It's about reducing friction and then understanding exactly where that sits and what can be done to reduce that, because I think it's obviously lots more to comment on, but I don't want to take up too much time. Thanks.
Splendid, Rosemary. Appreciate. Siko, that was to buttress what you brilliantly did earlier. And let me ask if Sahara or Scovia or Zandile would like to also share. Zandile is a very instrumental figure within the space. And all of you two are also members of the COP. So we have co-created this for some time now. So you are free to also share your thoughts on how you find things going.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Scovia. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Scovia Drupio. I'm a PhD student from Cardiff University in the UK. So it's been a pleasure to be part of this discussion. I think there's been a lot that has been talked about in terms of, how can we foster collaborations to support inclusive entrepreneurship. So I'm a researcher in the field of education and skills development, and particularly I'm looking at entrepreneurship skills development. But for me, I come from a gender perspective. So in terms of access, particularly for women and other vulnerable groups like people with disabilities, where are we? What are our thoughts around that? How are we putting in structures and also including such people, underrepresented or often disadvantaged groups within our conversation. So to me, that's something that I feel we should also involve in our discussions. But all in all, it has been a wonderful session. I've already gone to some of the websites that people have been talking about. And yeah, I look forward to going and looking at the resources, courses, and just learning more from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Scovia. Yeah, as a PhD candidate, there are lots of prospects for you on the AEIP. So I want to urge you to just keep on showing up in our sessions, keep on working with us on our Figmas, and you may find yourself winning something wonderful as a PhD candidate, because there's great prospects for you as academic within the space. So big ups to you. Nana Kojo, I saw your hand. Please come on board.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joanne. I don't know if it's fine if I turn off my camera.
Yes, fine. Go ahead.
Yeah. So coming from the academic side of things, I'm actually in academic technology transfer from Ghana, coming from the University of Science and Technology. I'd have loved to hear the academic perspective from Europe. So I think I would love if perhaps maybe the presentation on the presenter who couldn't come was available, maybe it could be shared. But just to share some perspectives from our side of things as well, a lot is happening in terms of innovation and entrepreneurship here. At least from a tech transfer side of things, we have slowly come to understand that this is the way we must go. Research commercialization is the way we must go to be able to create much more sustainable systems, sustainable funding system for research, and actually having the most impact from the work that we do here in the university. So, I mean, from as far as I know, many of the major universities in Ghana are in the process of establishing tech transfer offices. Many have already established tech transfer offices, and you're looking at between the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to see a lot of patents being filed from the universities, a lot of industry collaborations happening, a lot of startups, joint ventures coming from the universities, because you have everybody thinking about strategies, everybody, conversing about ways with which we can boost innovation, we can boost entrepreneurship from the universities as well. So it's a great conversation to be part of the COP. It's a pleasure to be part, and I'm just hoping to see how the outcomes eventually, flesh out, and we'll share it on our end as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nana, for your comments. It's unfortunate we couldn't have Peter Fajistrom join us. He was very enthused to join us, but he had a challenge, a very technical challenge. And he promises to share slides in this video later on, which we'll try and then incorporate and get everybody to assess it. So we're sorry about that. And it would have been great because if he had shared, you would have been able to also point out the African perspectives and how we could bridge the gap. So sorry about that. Effie, I saw your hand. You can go ahead.
Mine is just to say that I'm really happy about the discussions that have been put in place today, especially when it comes to funding and removing the barriers that exist in the ecosystem. One thing that I've learned is that only 2% of funding goes to African founders. And this could be disappointing, especially because I'm from an entrepreneurial background. And one thing that I've come to believe is that African founders are the toughest people when it comes to entrepreneurship, because they survive some of the challenges that don't exist elsewhere. So my contribution is that I'm really happy about the discussions that are being had to remove the barriers for African entrepreneurs. And I'm also happy about the fact that there is less emphasis on demo days and hackathons, because we've had a lot of those. However, I think it's time that we move a bit away from that and focus on actual funding, because a lot of these ventures collapse after 3 years. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your contribution, Effie. Now I will turn to my speakers briefly to give just some final remarks. I see Siko smiling. So Siko, go ahead. We'll start with you, and then we'll follow with Nadia, and then Joseph, and then Paul. Then we can finally bring it to an end. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. I think a great distillation of all the points that have been raised here today. So I think I think we're all trying our best to ensure that there's less friction, less barriers, there's more flow. But I think the fragmentation or the misalignment is a reflection of the transactional nature of most of these relationships. And unfortunately, that then becomes the bottom line, the transactional aspect, and maybe perhaps again looking at the ecosystem. Is it because there's too many intermediaries, and that's why we start seeing that 2% allocation to founders themselves, the actual entrepreneurs, and maybe that's another barrier. Maybe there's too many of us who are in between, trying to play that role of connecting, and maybe we should be looking at how we can become enablers of those real connections to happen, and perhaps maybe the platform is playing that role to ensure that there is that direct link between partners or institutions or entrepreneurs on the continent and those in the EU. I mean, personally, for me, I'm in a very small city, which is often forgotten. Most people don't even know where it is on the map. This is Durban in South Africa. And there's a lot of innovation, a lot of brilliant minds, a lot of research in terms of outputs. Unfortunately, that output is usually then migrates to other places, whether within the country, other places in the country, or elsewhere. So those are some of the structural things that I think we also need to look at and reflect on at a local level to say, are we creating an environment that reduces the barriers geographically in our locus, before we extend the strategy regionally and across regions, across the divide in terms of borders. And then again, that lens of francophone, anglophone. I think for far too long we've been creating those, or I would say stewing in those barriers ourselves. You know, how do we start dissolving most of those and start seeing ourselves as part of a global market that is growing, that is quite important, where everyone is playing a part, regardless of where they're coming from, because those identity issues then become the politics in terms of how we engage and how we do partnerships. But yes, I think the AEIP, brilliant platform, and I think as a community of practice, we've done well to contribute to the brief, and hopefully we can action most of the recommendations coming out of that brief. I'm a big advocate for TOCs, or theory of changes, so hopefully we can take some of the aspects covered in the innovation agenda, in that theory of change, embedded in the brief, and see how we can actually start implementing those things on a very pragmatic level. But very happy and grateful for the opportunity to share and engage with everyone, and looking forward for more collaboration, cross-cutting collaboration. LinkedIn is a really great connector, so let's meet up there and see how we can also use the AEIP platform to accelerate the scaling. The innovation is happening. How do we now see the innovation scale? And I think it's up to us and our allies within the ecosystem to ensure that happens. Thanks, Ajay.
Thank you very much, Siko, for your remarks. And we can go to our next speaker, Nadia, to also share with us what her concluding remarks are.
Thanks so much, Siko. I think we've all done a great job. I'm happy to see us all vibrantly here today, sharing our thoughts and learnings. I'm happy COP is made up of different people from all walks of life, and I'm hoping this is not just a temporal thing, but a more sustainable community of practice where we can learn together, share together. And I see that we have our platform where we're able to share our networks, opportunities, and also some of our upcoming programs. So I hope the conversations keep going. I'm really counting on Jemima and Ajaman to keep this going more vibrantly. There are opportunities out there. We can strengthen the processes by working together. For me, I believe co-learning, collaborating, co-creating is the way to go. So I'm looking forward to a more sustainable network here.
Thank you very much. Excellent from Nadia. Next speaker is Joseph. Your remarks, final remarks.
Yes, please. So, yeah, for me, it's very brief. I think it's action from all the actors. And yeah, just the questions that I had. I think both sectors need to play a huge role in probably bridging this gap. The gap exists, that is known. So we need to work together to ensure that we actually make this connection successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. And to you, Paul.
Okay, thank you very much. I think one of the core things that sits at the bottom is governance, right? We've seen across Africa where governance has improved, policy has improved, and the ecosystem also has improved. So governance, strengthening governance, I think, is very critical. Definitely hubs on innovation hubs continue to play a critical role. Digital transformation, talent development, the green sector, it's very key to unlock the gaps in terms of energy gaps. So I think as innovation hubs, we really have to look into a lot of commercialization of research that is sitting in the universities, and we could convert that to viable products that people could use. I think the future is very bright. I'm very passionate about Africa. I believe partnership and collaboration is the way forward, and also we should keep the conversation going. I think the platform is active. I've had 2 connections so far through the platform, so I think it's very important for us to get our voices heard from the continent through the bottom-top approach, and also, preach by examples, by churning out, the right ventures, and also ventures that solve, issues in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Zandile, also from Enriching Africa, said it beautifully to augment your comments, saying that excellent presentations and great insights. What we've seen as the Enriching Africa Center, the earlier we formulate partnerships and collaborate, the better for the ecosystem. Matchmaking initiatives and action programs enhance collaboration efforts. Less competition, more collaborations, and that's excellent. That's what it is. And that's where today's final event for the COP on entrepreneurship innovation will end. But has it ended? Our work on Figma, the co-creation effort that we did, has now been accumulated into a document, which is the framework for the policy brief. So a link will be shared with you over the week for you to now have access to the document and then make your final review and also addition, so that at the end of the day, we'll all meet and say, this is what we've done, and we all agree to what we're doing. So we're now taking it to the final stage of presentation. In May this year, we're having an AEIP maiden edition of our webinar series, the general consortium one. And the COPs, my COP on entrepreneurship innovation, I would need you to be present in May to now present your paper. This is your paper, it's our paper. So we'll need to have reps who will be coming together to present it, in the form of presentation. So if we can all come together, do a joint presentation and nominate speakers across the COP to present segments of it, that will be excellent. The COP should be together, very resolved and very strong. The next steps on what's next for the COPs will be shared by Jemima, my colleague. So Jemima, please come on board and share with the house what to expect from the other COPs. We have 3 of them for this year and what we're going to do with them.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Ajaman. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming together for us to have an insightful conversation. I know we've all picked 1 or 2 things that we are going to be implementing, and also helping us finalize the policy brief. So moving on, we have the launch for the next COP, which is commercialization of innovative product, which is coming on the 27th of February, 2026, of course. Yes. So we have the launch, and then we have 2 meetings that will be coming under the COP. That will be on the 5th of March and the 13th of March. And of course, we will have a final webinar for the commercialization of innovative products on the 20th of March, still same time. And then we'll launch the last COP on climate change and sustainability education on the 13th of April. And then we have 2 meetings, which will be on the 3rd of April and on the 3rd of April and the 10th of April. And then we'll have the final webinar for the climate change on the 17th of April. And we are looking forward to having everybody, and then we are looking forward to having an insightful conversation as always. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And if anybody has a point to share, you can still share with us whilst we're on. Also, all of these dates are in 2026. So please, it's this year. So we want to catch you all together. Let's do this together. It's just this year. So nobody should think it's next year. It's this year. Now, to say thank you very much to our speakers, Siko and Somi, brilliant. Nadia, excellent. Joseph, as usual, amazing. And to you, Paul, remarkable. You've made the COP lively, and I really appreciate your constant availability and knowledge sharing. We look forward to engaging you all further in all the remaining COPs so we can do this together. The continent is at a point where we can contribute. So for once, you and I believe that we could make a difference within the EU space. So it's our time to make a difference. Thank you very much for your time. We'll catch you all later with more updates. Have a nice day. Be safe. But before you leave, there should be history made. Sigo, let's go ahead. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you to you as well, Jamang and Jemima, for just leading us in COP and doing a remarkable work around the coordination and the orchestration of how the COP should be run and the documenting, the evidencing, and then obviously putting everything together and making sure that there's an output or an outcome at the end. So really well done to yourselves. Yeah, thank you so much for putting in all those hours and work in making sure that the COP is truly represented. Yeah, really appreciate and grateful for your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just to add that in the next COP, which is on a commercialization of innovative products, we'll have the ACTS in Kenya will be joining us. They will be part of the co-creation process, which we expect them. The like of Anne Kingiri in the ACTS will be there, join us. And also things that would suffice is IP information, IP transition, IP ownership, and everything. So please, if you have any ideas on IP, join us there. Let's put that together. Now, let's take some photographs, please. This part matters a lot to me. Yeah, it matters. So please put your camera on wherever you are. Wear a very wonderful smile like you do always. And let's take a very good, wonderful picture. Effie, I don't think you want to miss this. All right, Effie, I'm waiting for your smile. Let's do this. Splendid. And then let's go get Gideon. All right, Alex, ready. Chichi, let's do the smile. Thank you very much, Mr. Ru. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. Really appreciate and look forward to engaging you further on with the remaining COPs. Have a nice day and bye.
Thank you.
Bye.